Yo, 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 yo. So we can now start talking about gear. So I'm going to start by showing you what I usually carry when I go out. I want to be as minimal as possible. And of course, it's gotta be my Ricoh GR3. This is probably my most used street cam, just because it's the smallest camera I own. It fits in any pocket, and 28mm lens, very sharp lens, amazing colors. Actually, my favorite digital camera when it comes to color reproduction. They look very natural, and you know that I'm a big fan of the positive film simulation. In terms of accessories, I only use this hand strap. It's from Canon, a very cheap one from one of my old compact cameras. And then I also use this thumb rest. In first, I thought this is not really necessary for a camera like this, but it actually really makes the GR feel much more stable and comfortable in your hand. The front grip is really nice in itself, but just having more real estate for your thumb feels really nice. And because you shoot one-handed a lot, I think it makes sense. So yeah, Ricoh GR3, love it. Best street cam, best everyday street cam for sure. Next camera is my Minolta CLE. This is my film camera. A big dream of mine was to own a film rangefinder someday. And of course I was always looking at Leica. The problem with Leica is just so expensive, and it's not only the price, they're also like very heavy. And you know, I'm used to the GR and then the X100F of course, and the Leica M bodies always feel like a brick in my hands, and I guess you can get used to it. The other thing is, because I shoot 28 a lot, it was very important to me to have 28mm frame lines. And yeah, I know they are in Leica cameras, but it's almost the entire viewfinder and you can't really see much outside of it. But on this one, the Minolta CLE, the frame lines are very nice. You can see a lot out of the frame. I'm not so sure about the history anymore, but Leica was definitely involved in making this camera. And I think the CLE stands for Compact Leica Electronics. And it's actually very advanced because it has this touch sensitive shutter. So when you touch this shutter slightly, the light meter is activated and you can see a reading for your shutter speed. Another thing that is very advanced for this camera is it has aperture priority. And when this camera came out, there was no Leica M7. The Leica M7 came much later. Yeah, and I like how light it is. It doesn't feel cheap. It's definitely not as nice in terms of the craftsmanship compared to Leica, but it takes Leica lenses, so you can buy Leica glass if you want. And I think when you shoot film, the lenses are more important than the camera body, because you know the film will always be the same. Right now I shoot HP5, and I have this 40mm Rokkor f2. And I think it's identical to the Leica Summicron 40mm f2. Same glass, and I think also the same construction. Very satisfying aperture dial. Just listen to this. Yeah, it clicks in very nicely. Definitely one of the nicest lenses I own. Another lens I have for this camera is the Minolta 28 Rokkor 2.8. This one, I got this lens together with the camera for around $800, which is a very good deal. If you go to eBay right now, the camera alone will be around $500 to $700, like dollars. And then the lens another 400 each. Yeah, I really like this lens as well. It's a little bit bigger than the 40. It has this nice lens hood. It doesn't protrude in the viewfinder. I'm also a big fan of these focusing tabs. These are not like the Leica ones where you can put your finger like so and then move it like this. You have to use your fingertip. The downside is if you use zone focusing a lot and you want to quickly change the distance. Very advanced shooters, they remember, you know, the position of their finger, and it's easier when you have a focusing tab like the ones on the Leica lenses, because then it's easier to feel it, and this one sometimes it's hard to find it. Yeah, I don't know what else to say. It's a very nice Leica alternative, definitely a great film camera. Yeah, it's kind of a rare camera, not many people buy it. I also always tell people not to buy it because once this camera breaks, I want to get another one because I like it so much. This is also another downside because this camera runs on batteries, so everything is electronic. So when your camera dies, you need to buy a new camera. You can't just repair it. That would be a point for getting a Leica because you can still repair it. So next we have my trusty Fuji X-H1. This is my main YouTube camera. This is whatever you see on YouTube right now, my GR project. Everything is filmed on this camera using my Rokinon 12mm cine lens. This is my vlogging lens. It has the same sensor than the X-T2, X100F. It's very fast, very quiet. The shutter is very quiet because it's like a dampened shutter and it's very touch sensitive. And for me, this one, I still use it for stills. As you can see, I recently got this 80mm Fuji lens because I need to have 28 on all my cameras, and it's super fast. It's actually a little bit scary sometimes. It's like there's absolutely no excuse anymore not getting the precise moment. I will keep this camera alongside my GR because, you know, the biggest downside of the GR is the AF speed. It's definitely not the fastest compared to my other cameras. So I'm hoping Ricoh will improve on that. I'm also a big fan of the body design, like how it feels in the hands, and I kind of look all these lines here and this weird thing here. And you have, of course, all these dials, ISO dial, shutter dial. And one big benefit, actually let me slap on my video lenses. So this is how I use my X-H1 for my YouTube videos, and I'm also using this mic on top of it, which is the Aperture DAD3.
It was supposed to rain, so we were gonna have umbrellas. But
we are kind of a little bit upset that it didn't rain because it's
nice. It would have been nicer. The rain is great at night, in Tokyo especially.
So yeah, this is how I walk around in the city when I film videos, and then I'm really liking this tilt screen. I'm not a big fan of these that tilt outwards or sideways. Because if you have to do it like this and then turn around, it takes more time. It's also a little bit awkward to hold. So I like this one much better. And then a huge plus on this camera is when you switch between stills and video, it will remember your video settings. And then you can switch back and forth between photos and video. And it will remember all your photo settings and video settings. I always use the Fujifilm Eterna profile, which gives me like very nice colors. I don't need to do much. Most of the time I'm just changing the tone curve. Another lens I'm using for video is this one here. This is the Camlan 28mm 1.4. It's a Chinese lens. It's cheap, but it's also very well built. It feels very nice, very like high quality. Very smooth focusing ring. Usually there's a yellow ring around this lens, and I find this ugly, so I painted it black. So yeah, 28 on APS-C makes it 40mm full frame equivalent field of view, which is the most cinematic focal length you can use for video. And I think this is a great addition to the wide angle lens. Then I have this Chinese lens hood, which doesn't really block out the sunlight, but it has a 67mm filter thread, and my variable ND filter fits perfectly on this. Unfortunately though, I dropped this lens while I was in London, and now it's not really a proper circle anymore, so I can't use the ND filter. I mean, I can, but it takes me a while to put it on. But it used to be a perfect fit. Yeah, I know I wanted to talk about photo gear only, but while we are at it, so I'm using this little tripod as my like grip or handle for doing vlogging, and also to put my camera down. It holds up to like 2 kilos, which is really amazing. And so this Samyang 20mm f2, it's a manual focusing lens, right? And there's one downside. First of all, if you go all the way to infinity, it's not really infinity. And then, you know, how do you focus on yourself, right? So what I did was I put on these markings. So like you can see here, this white line. This means this is really the true infinity. Like if I go all the way up to this, it's not really in focus. Like my background is not in focus, but this is true infinity. And then for vlogging, this is my vlogging distance. So whenever I go out to film, you know, B-roll for the GR project, for example, I put it to infinity, close my aperture and film. And if I want to film myself, I just go to my mark distance here, and then I know that I will be in focus. So these are my video lenses. I don't really use them for photo that much. The only Fuji lens besides my newly acquired 80mm is the 23 f2. Very great lens, definitely much better than the X100 lens. People compare them and say, you know, it's the same lens. I don't think so. This one is definitely better. This one is actually very good for video as well, for autofocusing. Kind of strange, but this one is very good for that too. And I like how it looks. I like this square hood. By the way, I have links to all my gear in the description on my kit page. Okay, last lens is the XF 80mm f2. This is not really a popular lens amongst the Fuji community. Many people really hate this lens. They say it's super soft, it's slow. I don't really get it because, first of all, I think it looks very sexy, like very nice. The lens hood is super awesome. But it's also very fast. I don't think it's like slow. On my XH1 it's super fast. It does hunt a little bit. It's not as confident as my 23 f2. Even at f2 it is acceptable sharp. I don't find it very soft. It's not like super crazy sharp, but it's definitely sharp enough. And actually it is funny to compare this against a full frame 28 2.8, because shooting this camera at f2 kinda gives you the same background separation. Of course it's not exactly the same, but definitely helps having a f2 for 28. So this one I didn't really get the chance yet to test it outside. I just got this recently, but so far I really like it. So there's one more camera we need to talk about, and that is this beast of a camera. This is the Canon 5D Classic, the Mark I. So I used to own the Canon 5D Mark II, which was my first like pro DSLR body. I was like, you know, I thought I would become, you know, the next James Nachtwey, become a war photographer, photojournalist. And so the 5D series always makes me think about photojournalism. And yeah, many people like rave about this camera. The sensor is supposedly magical, and I gotta say the hype is definitely justified. There's definitely some magic to this sensor. So I was just curious, so I picked this one up together with this 40mm pancake from Canon 2.8 for like $350, which is amazingly cheap if you think about it. And also I have this, this is also a very old 28mm 2.8 from Canon. which I also got secondhand. This is my GR lens. Very noisy. Makes you almost question if this lens is broken or not, but this is totally normal. And the shutter, of course, yeah, very loud. But this camera is so much fun because it actually really feels like shooting film. It feels like an analog camera because you have big buttons and the viewfinder is nice and bright. It's an optical viewfinder. The LCD though is very shitty. It's very hard to see if you're in focus or not. It's only okay to judge the exposure. There's definitely something magic about shooting 40mm on full frame because it's much closer to the human eye than a 50 or 35. And this combination is actually quite compact. I mean, it's still heavy, but this was my setup when I went to Venice, and I also brought my film camera, but I couldn't stop shooting the 5D. It's just so much fun to use this camera. Another reason why I wanted the 5D is also to practice my hyperfocal distance skills or zone focusing skills. This is not maybe the best lens to do that, but so it's a 28. And if you use manual focus, you have a distance scale here. So I can put it to 1 meter or 2 meters or half a meter and then practice my zone focusing skills. So that's basically it. Maybe to summarize. So I'm using the GR for every day. It also serves as my secondary digital camera alongside my film camera. So when I go out, I often go out with both of these cameras. Also, I'm shooting film much more for like private stuff, family photos, family events. So this is like my life camera, it's documenting my life. Yeah, and the X-H1, as I said, is my YouTube camera, but also my photo camera when I really need fast autofocus and high frame rate. Yeah, and then the Canon 5D is my little, passion camera. It's my experimental camera, or whenever I want full frame. It's a fun camera. It's a little bit heavy. I'm not sure if I'm going to keep this for long. I think so, but I don't really need this camera. It's just because I wanted it. It's fun. I can practice my distances. You know what? Actually, I want to show you some prints. And 12 megapixels is definitely enough to print your photos, because I did some test prints. This one, for example, is I shot this in Venice, and this was with the Canon 5D and the 40mm pancake, this one. And the quality is very good, very nice. I don't think you can really see the details and sharpness here on video, but maybe I will shoot some close-ups and then you will see it right now. This is not a Canon, this is my film camera here, HP5. And then this is also HP5, this is my mom. So this is how I use my film camera. It's more like for, private stuff. Okay, so that is it. This is all my photo gear that I'm currently using. Of course, you don't need that much stuff. I don't think I have, a crazy amount of camera gear. Everything serves a purpose for me. Everything is, bought secondhand. I don't really buy new gear. And I often also sell gear to get other gear, because I treat cameras like tools. I get really attached to some cameras, but most of it is just their tools to me. This camera definitely a camera that hopefully will stay with me for a long time. The rest can leave. I don't care too much. But yeah. Shit, I just realized we are out of toilet paper, so I will be right back. Okay guys, that's it. I hope you enjoyed my little update video. Shit, that's dangerous. Stay clean, stay safe, and remember, there's nothing, no, wait,
don't let fear overcome you. It's not good to be in fear. And you know how they say, there's nothing to fear than fear itself. Okay, bye.